Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatharini Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. All right. So, Ichha Dvesha Samuddhena Dvandva Mohena Bharata Sarva Bhutani Sammoham Sarge Andi Parantapa. A sign of Bharat, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. So in the previous verses, few of the previous verses, the Supreme Lord has spoken about attachments. In today's verse, is speaking about attachment and aversion. And in the future verses, you will find that he'll be speaking about aversion. So the Supreme Lord has a theme here. Arjuna's question. Hare Krishna. This is better? Okay, this is better. Yeah, I'll just. Yeah, that's good enough. So his theme is about what we must pay attention to. So first of all, he speaks about what are the various ways one becomes attached. In today's verse, the Supreme Lord, Shri Krishna, is explaining a science. He says, Sarva Bhutani, since Sanskrit the word Bhuta means living entities, Bhutani is plural, Bahuvachan. So living entities, all of them. Sarge, Sarga means creation. So basically it means when one takes birth. Yanti, since the time Sarga happened, since the time one is born. Sammoham, bewildered. So since the time of our birth, each one of us and all of us are bewildered. Sammoham. Sammoham means complete illusion. How did that happen? We would be wanting to know that if we realize ourselves as beings with Viveka Shakti, beings having intelligence to inquire about the causality of creation. So that is called as Viveka Shakti or Viveka Buddhi. Srila Prabhupada's words, he would say that in the human form of life, one must make inquiries. At the same time, we have to realize that we are born in illusion. So basically, our tool to make inquiry is handicapped by our existence of having been born in illusion. Which means that it's not going to be easy when we are going to make inquiries. So it's like if you have, let's say, a metal ball, and if you have a cotton ball. Metal ball is made up of metal. A cotton ball is made up of, or a ball of cotton is made up of cotton. Now you take these two balls and throw them off a high-rise building, let's say 20 floors. You throw them off there. You be careful that it does not hit anyone. So the metal ball is going to fall quicker than the ball of cotton. Why? Science. Gravity acts. However, the natural proclivity of every element is different. Yes, this is science. Now, if you take salt or a salt solution, Yes. And a hydroxide solution. Let us say there is a turmeric solution. You know turmeric? So you take a turmeric solution. The turmeric solution is a little alkaline because it's a hydroxide. There are various elements in turmeric. Science. Everyone understands science. Maybe we did not pay attention to this. But we'll figure it out how. Let's say you have a white dhoti and you're in the kitchen. And somehow some turmeric stain comes onto your white dhoti. Right? Now you apply soap to it. What happens? Changes color, turns red. Chemical reaction, right? Why is that? Because of the natural proclivities, their constitution. Similarly, the constitution of all of us is that since birth, we are programmed to be susceptible to illusion. Therefore, when we read so much about how we should change our behavior, we hear, we even take up commitments, it is very difficult. Figure it out. How is it difficult? Self-preservation is very important for all of us. I mean, we value our own life much above anyone else's life. Correct? Let me give you a simple example. You feel very, very tired and sleepy. Very tired, very sleepy. You are in an important meeting. Maybe it is at the workplace, maybe you're just married and you're at in-laws' place, whichever way. Very important gathering. You're tired and sleepy. What do? I mean, you just cannot stop your eyes from closing. What do? See, self-preservation. You understand what is self-preservation? Because if I had told you about how everyone values their own life, you would have said, no, there are people who sacrifice for others. So I knew that somewhere that would come up. So I kind of just decided to clarify that right now. I did not use the example of hunger because even there you would say, but sleep. You're extremely tired. You will not be able to care for anyone else, anything else. Wouldn't be able to do that. If you do that, your bodily mechanism would break. If you forcibly try not to sleep, it's going to be very harmful, very, very harmful. Therefore, self-preservation is the most important need that we singularly identify with, each one of us. So if you ever feel that somebody is very compassionate, Remember this example. If they are very sleepy, they have not been able to conquer sleep, their compassion would not be, it would not be possible for them to express their compassion. So even for expression of these qualities like compassion or empathy, you need to be healthy in body and mind. You need to have good sleep, well rested. Now, sleep is sleep. When you're extremely tired, do you really care about where you want to sleep, how you have to sleep? You could sleep in a moving vehicle, you could sleep on another person's shoulders, you could sleep all cramped up if you're really very tired, correct? However, just look at our lives. How many articles we have accumulated just for our sleeping. Now, if you're going to speak about some of the basic needs of the human body, I mean, it's quite an exhaustive list. We're just speaking about sleep. They've accumulated all of that. And not only have we accumulated all of that, periodically, we want to update on those articles. It's either we've seen something somewhere, or we feel that it's not comfortable enough. So we have, over the period of years, developed an illusory concept of what is a good space for our sleep. The temperature, the softness, the environment. Have you seen a baby sleep? Up to 1 year of age or 2 years of age. It doesn't matter whether they are in your arms, on a bed, in a moving vehicle, with a pacifier in their mouth or not, because a baby's instincts are very basic. The baby has not gone through the processing of how it is important for your spine to be straight while sleeping. The baby has not gone through that processing. So when we start having so many reasons for how we should make our life comfortable, those reasons provide energy for the seeds of desire to sprout. So every time we want something to be comfortable in life, a new tree germinates in our life. Now it will grow, it will fructify and give us fruits. And we'll have to work hard for it. This is called as Ichha. Here in this verse, when Krishna says Ichha, this is Ichha. Sometimes we think Ichha means desire. Therefore, we must just change desires. And therefore, I've decided that every day now I'm going to do this, which will be connected to Krishna. But what about your basic needs? There are so many desires that we have cultivated since the time we became consciously aware of ourselves as humans in the need of comfort. Therefore, since birth, this body is programmed to be oriented towards desire. That is what Krishna is saying. Sometimes we may think that, if Krishna has put us in this situation, then obviously it's going to be there. No, 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 no. It is programmed. However, we develop that program. We bring out second generation, third generation, 5G, 6G of that program. Depending upon how many schools of thought we interact with. Oh, this Ayurveda Acharya says this is necessary for sleep. That seminar that I attended says that is necessary for sleep. I went to the doctor and the doctor said, you did not pay attention of how you're sleeping and it has all accumulated now. And now you need to do this for your sleep. So many schools of thought. How much time do we put in it? This is a valuable time where we could have meditated on what our higher intelligence enables us to do, self-realization. Here Krishna is speaking a very, very, very interesting point. He's speaking about how we consistently, through little efforts on our part, we have consistently developed ourselves into helpless beings with respect to being seekers in spiritual life. We constantly would find so many obstacles while trying to understand spiritual life. He says, Icha. And many times I've found people say, we don't have many desires, just simple life. My only desire is that in the morning I can wake up and chant Krishna's names. Then I ask them, is that the only desire? Yeah, it's only chanting, nothing else. And then I ask, what about the rest of the day? The chanting goes well, the rest of the day is fine. We have not paid attention to how we have accumulated so many sanskaras, impressions since the time we grew up to wanting to be comfortable in life. We haven't even come to dvesha as yet. This is just ichha. And all of these impressions that we have accumulated, each one of us, depends upon what our parents taught us, depends on what our teachers taught us, depends on all the readings that we have done, depends on what our friends told us, depends on what experiences we had with just somebody that we met occasionally. All of that accumulates, and creates an impression of layers and layers of how self-preservation is so important. And therefore, Prabhuji, I have this problem, because of that my chanting gets affected. Therefore, Mataji, because of this thoughts that I have, these experiences that I have had, it becomes so difficult. Sometimes it just comes into the mind. Who allowed all of that to enter our lives? We. And it's very interesting that we still haven't put a full stop to it. We still accumulate. And as of yet, I said, we are not speaking of dvesha, we are only speaking of ichha. We accumulate all that which we feel is necessary to be comfortable in life. It's like wanting to create a magnetic field out of an iron rod that has accumulated 10 layers of rust. Why do you think an iron rod gathers rust? Oxidation, we know. It is oxidation. But every layer gives it a sense of security. Because with each layer, the underlying iron element is not exposed to oxygen. So iron that is getting oxidized is definitely losing some of its existence. The hope is that this layer around it would create a barrier between the iron and the atmospheric oxygen. Similarly, we have created layers. I like Krishna. However, sometimes when people speak about Krishna, I cannot relate to it. I still like Krishna. And some others, when they speak to it, I become very excited. I like Krishna. Layer upon layer upon layer. And every layer is inherently an expression of self-preservation. So this incomplete sense of security that we carry about ourselves is what brings about the situation where the living entity is perpetually drowned by ichcha. To want situations, to want objects, and to want interactions, relationships, which give us comfort in life. Now there is dvesh. What is dvesh? All that which is an impediment to such objects, to such relationships, to such thought processes. We do not like it. So now we have created an entire category of what is comfortable and what is uncomfortable in terms of objects, in terms of people, in terms of situations, in terms of relationships, in terms of whatever else that you see yourself, high, low, pure, impure. We create so many impressions. So anything that makes us feel that we could be insecure, anything. It could be just your face. I look at your face and I feel insecure. Done, dvesh. It could be an interaction with me. Yesterday you did not smile at me. Done, dvesh. So dvesh does not mean jealousy, envy. Here, dva isha. It means we have developed another sector of objects, or we have developed another category of things, objects, feelings, which we feel is uncomfortable for ourselves. It may not be uncomfortable for anyone else. We are least concerned even if it is uncomfortable for anyone else. Our world is only about our own self-preservation. So that is called as Isha, means that which we worship because it gives us security. Dvesha means another category. How do we worship it? We worship it. When we say worship means we show concern. How do we show concern about it? By wanting to neglect it, by wanting to remove it, negate it, or destroy it. Now just imagine. Vehicle. Comfortable? Not comfortable. Not comfortable? Should I sell it off? Should I scrap it to get back insurance? Should I total it? Now that is just a vehicle. How many other articles do we have in the house? of value. So this is a complete quagmire. We have absolutely no idea what a complex mini world our mind is. We don't have an idea. And with this mind, we are trying to meditate. Interesting situation. Suddenly we hear, it's like a child in what is it called, a fair, those rides, and the child goes there for the first time, like, very meditative. Similarly, we hear some new concept in a particular class, a particular teacher teaches something, and we're like, and now we are amazed. Why? Because a blank state of existence of the mind gives you so much relief. Hence the need. So many people are into podcasts. They need to feel that sense of relief. And as soon as they find a speaker being repetitive, they're like, okay, I need to find someone new, someone more interesting, somebody who can free my mind. Why? Giving me the wow factor. And these wow factors are taken to be meditative practices. Raga dvesha vimuktaist. There is no self-analysis. Honesty is only to the extent we have developed the capability of introspection, which is very meager. It just depends upon how well known you are in a particular community, and if that community has a hierarchy, if you have survived long enough in that hierarchical community, you'll be considered to be a very advanced person of meditation. Because we don't have tools to try and understand what a state of meditation should be. And many of us don't have the time to get into it. So many of us just want over-the-counter relief. You have a problem, you go and buy something over the counter. Just imagine today's times, everything has so many different aspects. Everything, it could be your life, it could be this house, it could be how you section up this particular room. What kind of color you should put up on your wall. There must be something like 800 shades of this. Right? And when it comes to the aspect of meditation, meditation is simply sit down, quieten your mind. What are the different shades of the mind? All the shades. It's just like you don't like any of the 800 shades. Oh, okay, so this is lighter color. Use a dark color and all the shades will disappear. So right now it's yellow. Put on a dark red color on this, and all the shades of yellow will be gone. What are the different shades of red now? What about that? So life is a very, very tricky master. Life can trick anyone. It doesn't matter whether they have an understanding of the nature of life or they don't have the understanding, or they're somewhere in between. Minimal understanding or average understanding of what life is. Life is very tricky. In what sense? It can bring you to the brink of either feeling very comfortable in the situation, or it can make you very averse to the situation. It doesn't really matter whether you have spent 20 years of meditation or 40 years of meditation. Doesn't matter. Krishna is telling Arjuna, Arjuna, be in the present bacha. Right now, always be very observant. Observant of how things around are affecting your sense of security and your sense of comfort. And the day you're able to transcend that using your intelligence, that will be the day of awakening. Just as the moment you wake up from sleep, that will be the end of the dream. Now you speak about honor, dishonor, and the sense of comfort that we have created over so many years and so many days and so many hours. But what is honor and dishonor? Speak about pleasure and pain. Speak about happiness and distress. The sense of comfort and discomfort that each one of us has developed. And sometimes somebody tells us, oh Prabhuji, oh Mataji, even when it is so cold, you simply are wearing a very, thin dress. You are a yogi, you're a tapasvi. And we are like, yeah, maybe I am. How did you do it? And then there'll be a whole talk about what kind of food they eat, what kind of exercise they do. And from there we'll develop new and new concepts about your eating habits, your exercise habits, based upon your sense of comfort and discomfort. Festivals, similarly. Events, similarly. Waking up, sleeping, when we go off to sleep, similar. When we talk with each other, similar situation. When you're there on, driving down and you're on a, in today's times, you could be in a team meeting as you're driving to the pharmacy. You're in a similar situation. Eyes see. And if there's a situation which is very comfortable, you find someone up ahead of you driving in a way where you feel inspired. Like, oh my God, that person seems to be driving so smoothly. Another version of what is comfort for you. If someone cuts across your car in front, discomfort. As you're driving down the street, if your shoe slips off the pedal, should I buy new shoes? Is the pedal proper? Should I get it checked up? Situations just arise like that, and we don't realize how it brings us more and more into this sense of, I know how my life can be comfortable based on the inputs that my senses receive. We are training ourselves. We train ourselves. We train ourselves. We train ourselves. Based upon whatever the exposure we have. Constantly we are training ourselves. By the time we are 50 and 60, it's so difficult. It's so difficult to come out of all that we have trained ourselves to become. So the same training if had been begun at when we were still in the crib. in terms of how to seek a sense of security beyond the transient experiences of the senses, then that is how we would have looked at life throughout. Another aspect about aversion, dvesha, is that as soon as we find something that we become averse to, the mind creates a distaste. The important understanding about distaste is that it is as powerful as taste. If you find something very tasty, it stays in your mind. Whatever you find distasteful, that also stays in your mind. Manaha pratikriya. Your mind will respond accordingly. So it doesn't matter where you are. If you're at the shopping mall and you see something distasteful, your mind will react, even though you may not want to buy it. If you see someone else buying it, you're like, yuck, how can they even tolerate it? No, someone else has bought it. It affects your sense of security, your self-preservation. Because manaha pratikriya, the way the mind reacts. So there are so many things that can be talked about it. I just want to leave you with this. Think. I wasn't sure what the previous speakers have spoken and how this session has gone on. Therefore, I took this verse. I just wanted to meditate on some of the words that the Supreme Lord has used. And it's still, there's so much more that can be discussed on this. You want to see how it can go on? There's much more. And I'm not saying it because, I want to create an impression that because of lack of time, otherwise I am an encyclopedia. No, not because of that. Actually, whatever I had come a little prepared with, somehow or the other, I went on a tangent just on the first line. Padhak, mana pratikriya. These are, padhak means obstruction. And how the mind reacts. What happens is that when the mind reacts in a particular way and develops that inclination and then the nature of reacting in particular ways, it steals away our time. You may not, even if you're really focused on something very important, very, very important. If you happen to contact a situation which makes you averse, now you're in conflict. The conflict is you have time which can be used either in the important activity that you're doing or feeling that aversion that you have. This conflict is what troubles a living entity. Conflict between that which is very comfortable and how to try and gain more and more sense of security from it, and that which is distasteful and how to try to avoid it. That is not just a conflict that one has. The conflict is also between, I have an important thing to do. You may be in an important meeting. You may be in a very important meeting. And suddenly on your phone, which has an app, a monitoring app, you find, let's say, your child in a place that you wouldn't want your child to be. You will not be able to focus on the meeting. Now, I'm not saying the child is in a bad situation. The child is in a situation where you wouldn't want the child. I'm not saying the child is in a very dangerous situation. I'm not saying that. The child may be in a very good situation. There are two options for the child to be in a good situation A or a good situation B. You have determined that good situation B, even if it is good, you don't want your child to be there. As soon as the pop-up comes up, you'll be so conflicted. You'll be so miserable. These impressions on the mind waste our time. The time is so valuable. Relate some of these to whenever you want to sit down and chant, and you have these pop-ups at that point of time. Where do they come up from, those pop-ups? Those pop-ups are things of the past, things that you actually experienced or what you've imagined, and now they're troubling you. How do they trouble you? Not only do they create a sense of insecurity, you're chanting and wasting your time. So one has to understand that. We'll conclude this. I cannot leave you with just this. So there has to be something hopeful, isn't it?
Practical.
Something hopeful. This wasn't practical as of yet. All the things.
Application.
Practical application. You mean how to transform. Something for transformation, isn't it? So manovritti. The mind has a vritti. The mind has a tendency. Tendency to accept, tendency to reject. This tendency has been given to the mind so that the living entity can use it to accept Krishna and to reject or to become detached from material pleasures. So when one uses the tendency of the mind to accept Krishna, that is called as love for Krishna. That is Krishna Prema. That is what the mind is supposed to do. Unfortunately, because of the other kind of training, it will take so many years of reprogramming ourselves, really. And many a times, it may bring us to a position where we think we are better than the others. Unfortunately, it is a situation where everyone is blind and we have minimal vision in just one eye. But we think that, at least I can see a little bit. It's supposed to have good double vision. Sense of security. I'm better than the others. It gives me a sense of security, right? For many of us, we feel very secure wherever we feel we are in demand. I've noticed many devotees who are from a particular yatra, particular congregation, when they go to some other place, no one knows them. Some part of the day, they're like, oh, I remember our temple, I remember our devotees. Why is that? Because it gives you a sense of security. Very rare that when you're in that situation, like let us say you're in a place where you are given the feeling that you're important there, your contribution is important. Very rare that you may remember another place. Oh, I remember that place. Very rare. Tricks of the mind. So the mind is supposed to be attached to Krishna, whether it is here or there, because the mind has that facility, and the mind has a facility to be detached too. Just as we are detached in some other place, because no one knows there, we are very detached. Really? No problem, I'm not expecting anything. But when we come back to the place where we are well trenched in, there are a lot of expectations. Oh, how could they do that to me here? A similar situation in some other place, problem. We may actually find reasons as to why we were at the receiving end. Here, we may actually find reasons why someone wanted us to be at the receiving end. It's all the mind. So, Krishna Prem and Vairagya. One is Raga and other is Virag. So, Krishna Prem and Vairagya. However, when we use this facility only to interact in the material world, even if it is in terms of sadhana, but we are interacting with the material world. What does it mean, material world? It means our senses and our mind are still engrossed in the material conception of life. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm initiated, I'm not initiated. I've spent so many years practicing, I've not spent so many years practicing. I do this kind of service, I do not do that kind of service. All of these impressions. Like Srila Prabhupada is, very often quoted. Somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, what is the meaning of my name? Prabhupada said, just remember Das. Now, many times we've quoted it, but unfortunately it hasn't sunk in. Why? Because we want to be known as such and such Das. Somebody who worships Tulsi very nicely, that Das or Dasi. Somebody who can do Kirtan very nicely, that Das or Dasi. Somebody who can do outreach programs very well, that kind of Das and Dasi. And that is what Prabhupada was wanting to express, that be careful. What is important is the word Das. Why? Because in that mood, one will know that this tendency of the mind has to be used in being attached to Krishna and detached from the material world. However, when we use both of these facilities to interact with the material world, then wherever there is attachment, it results in raga. And whenever there is detachment, it results in dvesh. So how do we use the facility of the mind for a real benefit? That really needs good understanding of knowledge. The best knowledge is what one hears from a self-realized soul. When I say self-realized, I'm not saying that perfect soul. A self-realized soul. Like the postman who told Srila Prabhupada, Swamiji, if you write books, it will stay forever. Self-realized soul. In terms of what? In terms of giving this advice to Srila Prabhupada. So limited edition self-realized soul. Limited edition. Why? Because what that self-realized soul says, we are able to assimilate it and bring about transformation in our lives, where rag and dvesh are not the natural ways that we let the mind work. But prem and vairagya are the ways in which we allow the mind to function. Okay, so we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I have a question. So first of all, thank you so much. It was really quite enlightening kind of session. So a few things you started with that we are programmed in such a way. And then you mentioned and then we develop further we add this programming and we go towards the this is we like it or dislike or whatever we go. But who programmed us in the beginning?
The instincts, the basic instincts that we have programs us. If we are left to ourselves and we do not, let us suppose that we grow up in the jungles where we are not exposed to the technological advancements that society has made. Just a raw jungle, dense, where we just survive like other animals. And that is how we'll program ourselves. Because we need to, yes. So what Krishna is saying is that we have programmed ourselves basically to various platforms of being sophisticated animals in terms of having rag and dvesh. Various platforms. We did it. Why? Because that is what we saw around us. Now, if we had enlightened beings around us, then that is what we would have incorporated. All right?
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yes.
Prabhuji, you explained how we build layers, right? In our So essentially I like something, I build the layer. Then I like something else, I build the layer. It kind of becomes like a pile, right? And all this pile causes all these issues in life. So one of the things we're trying to do in Krishna consciousness is basically get rid of that pile, right? So that, because when you don't have any pile up, then you have this peace, right? Because lack of all these things actually essentially means peace, right? Because mind is at peace. So we try to attach to Krishna consciousness that way, feel peaceful. But isn't like, and I wholeheartedly believe in Krishna. So I'm just asking as a purely like as a technical point over there, that we're trying to get rid of this pile, but we are actually trying to attach to Krishna now, right? So essentially we are going in the same route, that we are trying to, have Krishna Lila, right? For example, in our minds, right? So let's say we realize that, the position, how would that actually cause our mind to be peaceful? Because that's again, another thought process, right? So it's not going to get rid of the thought process itself. It's just about, it's going to be about Krishna. That's the only difference. So how would not having, a lack of layers at that point of time will make us peaceful? You know what I mean? Because there'll be some layers, right? So this is what we're going to be about Krishna.
Okay. So the question is that how would the process of reorientation make the mind peaceful? Right now, the mind is, it is programmed towards either attachment or aversion. So how would by adopting the process of being attached to Krishna, how would that bring the mind to a state of peace? Because the mind technically has,
just a layer of Krishna.
That would be another layer of Krishna, which is exactly true, which is very much true. So I agree. That is what I try to describe also, that when we are in a particular community where we feel we are wanted, where we can feel connected, and we may go to, let's say, there are devotees here in Baltimore, they feel connected to the congregation in Baltimore. Now, let's say if they go to a new place, let's say Fiji, or let's say they go to Canada, and the congregation there is very well established, and it's difficult to kind of maneuver inside. Till the time you do not find a connection there, you'll again and again remember, and you'll again and again want to come back to Baltimore. Many people do that. Not come back to Baltimore per se, but come back to the place where they feel comfortable in their desire to be, and there's a desire for self-preservation. So yeah, that is, I did describe that too.
So layers are good as long as it's a Krishna layer, right? No other layer.
I never said that. I said these layers are also being developed through the material conception of this is comfortable and this is not comfortable. That is what I was trying to say. So it may give us a false sense of security.
Okay, thank you.
So what should be done? Let's suppose, a life is like a hard drive. So you've created these, you've occupied those spaces on that hard drive. What is it called as? The bytes. You occupied that. Now, some of those bytes are helpful for the drive. Some of them slow down the drive. Some of them corrupt the drive. So those that corrupt the drive, you want to get it off your hard drive. But it's there on the drive. So then you develop a program wherein this particular part of your drive no longer receives any more data. Isn't it? Krishna consciousness is where you format the drive. You completely format it, like deep format. And once there's a deep format, and it is completely formatted, then you create new byte packages. However, if you're still dealing with the previous drive, and you're taking in newer and newer data, it will try to fit in wherever there's space on that drive. Right? So when we are saying that now we are trying to develop a new layer of Krishna, that is what we are doing. We have not cleaned up the drive. Now, you may hear that by practicing Krishna consciousness, it will cleaned up itself. It is true. Krishna consciousness does that. It formats a drive. So then it brings us back to this question. Do we have the right software of Krishna consciousness? Or do we have the pirated version? Have I? Because the pirated version also looks very similar. However, that pirated version has Trojans in it. All right? So one has to be very good engineer. One has to have that good knowledge about technology. And when we have that, then we would be aware of whether the program that we have adopted in life is pirated version or is the original version. Is this example helpful? So Krishna consciousness does that. It gives you that ability and capacity to develop as a good engineer. Someone out there, they've called their program inner engineering. Someone has done that, right?
Yeah.
So basically it means that engineering, because we know that term. In today's time, engineering, especially software engineers, are very popular. So good use of words to explain the concept. Yeah. So format. We have to find a way to format our drive. And when we reload the OS, we have to see that it is the original version. Which means we should be educated enough to know what is the original version. We should be QA specialists.
Sure.
Is that helpful? Yeah. Especially when we are trying to install the program, at that time, we should have that qualification as a QA specialist. Okay. Hence, Krishna wants Arjuna to do it. He doesn't say that, hey, you just depend on me and I'll do it for you. He says, you have to do it. You have to do it. Okay. You can depend on me and still do it. But don't depend on me to do it. All right. Okay. Any other questions? You had a hand. Yeah.
You can share a little more about how do we self-analyze so we get rid of all these charge-ish and this stress. Or like, is it?
You have done Bhakti Shastri. Come on.
I have not done
That is what they have taught.
So how it should be? Should it be on day-to-day basis? Or what is the proper way? How do I do it?
Do you have a shopping list every week or every 15 days? Did you go to any seminar? Did you do any Bhakti Shastri on shopping lists? How did you do it? You saw the need. You saw the need because you knew that this need is necessary for you to survive. The day we find the philosophical aspects of Krishna consciousness needful as a fish finds water to be needful, That is the day we'll discover what mysteries are available in the water of Krishna consciousness. So it cannot be, the approach cannot be a superimposition of some concepts that we find very lucrative in the surroundings that we have. It has to be a hunger from within. And a hungry person finds food. Whereas if one is not hungry, one may go to the to Walmart and think, yeah, let me keep this for times in it. Let me buy, accumulate things. But when a person is hungry, the first thing the person does is take that thing off the shelf, pay for it, and eat before accumulating. So the hunger that the living entity has in the mood of being a servant is unlimited. Because the object of service is Krishna, who's unlimited. How to be hungry, that cannot be taught, right? How to feel hunger, that cannot be taught. Self-preservation is different. Let us say it's not different for each. Self-preservation is always very individualistic. That example of sleep that I began with. Supposing you're really tired and sleepy, and even if somebody in the family is very sick, and you cannot afford to fall off to sleep, what will you do? And I'm not saying that you have some reserve energy to keep awake. You're completely exhausted. If you fall asleep, there are consequences to the people that are with you. However, you are totally exhausted. What is going to happen? Exactly. All right. Very individualistic. Self-preservation is very individualistic. All right. Yes.
While you were talking, you gave an example, right, about the devotees like they get up early and do their japa, and then they think the entire day is gone by because they did their japa early on. So what was the purpose of that example? Why did you? It's good, right? If you get up early, do your japa, and then definitely you feel that your day has gone very well compared to if you do your japa very late in the night or evening.
If it was good, then you would have done japa throughout the day. If it was really good, then you would have done japa throughout the day.
But then probably you have other close to do, right? Other tasks to take care of.
That is what we are speaking about, no?
False sense of security. Why do we say that it's a false sense of security?
I never said false sense of security. I used false sense of security in another context. I said this is what we have trained ourselves for self-preservation.
But that's good for in this case, right? That's a good.
I'm not saying good or bad. What I'm saying is that is another layer of us. Okay, now I'll say that is another layer of false security in terms of self-preservation. When we are working through the rest of the day, we are still dealing with things that make us comfortable or uncomfortable. But because we feel that the morning was good, and that which makes us comfortable, we feel very comfortable in it. And that which is uncomfortable, we are okay to kind of tolerate it. We are still dealing with our conceptions of what is comfortable and what is uncomfortable. So the hard drive is still the same. And therefore the program is going to work the same way the next day. So the next day may not be a day where your morning goes good. And then struggle again. And when you struggle, you're going to be miserable. Understand? So if you take any situation out of context, we do not look at the bigger picture, then we feel that, oh, this process is all right, what I'm doing. One way that we could have another perspective is like, okay, today the day went good. What can I do to make the rest of the week go in a similar direction? What could I do for that? Sometimes devotees analyze like that, and sometimes they don't. So they're leaving such experiences to chance. So that is one perspective that we could have, a little different from that. Oh, if the day went good, it is correct. It is all right, right? We have to try and see if such an approach to situations is just very basic instincts. Like if you look around at other species of life, would they also be happy if the morning was good and the rest of the day they went good? And is that all that our intelligence should be used for? Maybe not, isn't it? You're welcome. Anything else? 1, 2, 3. Oh no, you had your hand up first. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Thank you very much for very nice and inspiring lecture. My question is it also programmed already that how much a living entity can reformat the hard drive in a
Yes,
better way?
It is very much programmed how the living entity can reformat it in a better way. And it is very individualistic.
Is there any flexibility?
However, there is no gradations. It is not that one person can do it better than another person. Every person has the inbuilt program by default to completely reformat their hard drive.
Oh, completely.
Reformat and reinstall. Every person has that. That is what we call as the tendency of the mind to accept and to reject. To either accept Krishna and reject the material conception of life.
But we see like some people take up Krishna consciousness very seriously, some yes.
So 3 layers here.
Is it programmed to that level?
No, when I see that, I see 3 layers. I don't see what I should be doing. I can occasionally take some learning lessons from their lives. However, I have to work on what I have learned to bring out a better version of myself. All right. So focus. Ekeha Kurunandan. It's not bad. The others did not turn out to be bad warriors. They were all very good warriors. But only Arjuna was allowed to participate in that exam. Everyone else were exceptional warriors. It is not that after that Dronacharya said that, sorry, I cannot give you certificates. He gave each one of them a certificate. This particular test, only Arjuna was allowed to do it, no one else. And never again were they given that opportunity. It was once in a lifetime opportunity.
So when that opportunity comes, we have to grab it.
Well, Arjuna was, what is the word used? Very mindful. The others were not as mindful. So they saw everything else.
Yes.
They saw, someone saw trees, someone saw, it was like they heard others say and they felt that, okay, if they have said all of this and Dronacharya has put him aside, so what else could I say? So someone saw leaves. So the next contender said, do you see the leaves? He says, no. What else do you see? I see you, Guruji. So each one of them saw a unique thing around the eye. So there must be at least 100 things that totally they saw. So can you imagine the distractions that are there? 100 distractions, and Arjuna did not see even one of them. Everyone else, they negated the other distractions and saw a new distraction. Isn't that a wonderful example? Did you ever hear this explanation of that example? Therefore, you have to look into these examples. Use your sense of perception to make it relevant. Everyone says like Arjuna was very focused and people clap, and after clap they forget. So how do you make, if it is there, scriptures have explained that, it is helpful for me. So when I hear that example and clap, has it helped me? Maybe, but mostly no. So to help me, I have to see it from my perspective. What is it that the others lack and Arjuna has? It is not just focus, but also the lack of distraction to so many objects of distraction. Now, the next time you'll very well remember this. And who knows, next time we talk, either you have a new perspective or I could have a new perspective to this example. It's very possible. So any perspective that helps us use the mind to be attached to Krishna and to give up our attraction, be tolerant or not be distracted by material conception of life. All those discussions or analysis are very healthy, very healthy. But anything which is a monotony, like, okay, I have to give a class, let me just use this example. Somebody else gave class and you're like, yeah, I've heard that example so many times. Monotony. Monotonous. It does not stimulate the mind. So the mind is already programmed to only think of attachment and aversion. There's no stimulation. Yesterday at your house, I said, no, poti pad mua pandit bhayana koi. Listen to so many lectures, so many podcasts. However, there's been no further advancement of realization. Okay. You're welcome. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for your wonderful class. Thank you so much for taking great effort in going through the nitty-gritty details and explaining us the verse. The question that I was thinking about was what happens to an individual who or so it is arisen from the dualities. You explained that verse translation that the Icha and Dvesha arisen from the dualities first, right?
Did I say that? Did I say that Icha and Dvesh come from dualities?
In the translation,
here, what I tried to explain was that Icha and Dvesh are dualities.
right.
It is a one layer of duality, desire and aversion. Duality means establish fact and anti-establishment. That is duality. There is establishment and anti-establishment. That is called as Dvandva, like opposites. Simple words, opposites.
Showing that I was thinking in terms of making a devotee subject to those dualities because of our action. He is not in that duality, but we subjected him to go through those dualities because of our activity. What will happen to the person who did that?
If I'm the cause of somebody going through certain dualities, then what would happen to me? Or what would happen to the person who's going to realities? What is the question?
What will happen to both?
What will happen to both?
Subjected to dualities, the devotee who is subject to dualities because of external impetus, external stimulus, and also the person who led to the stimulus, who caused the duality to arise in that devotee.
So it could be one of these two.
Let's say somebody is standing in line. I deliberately was thinking about why is this devotee coming and standing in line every day in the front.
So you're not putting a devotee in duality. You yourself are in duality.
But I asked Prabhuji, I saw you every day coming first in the line.
Okay.
He started, because we do anything wrong by standing first in the line, we might think about it.
Okay.
And I'm subjecting him to that duality there. Where,
Okay.
he might now start being mindful about not coming front in the line. I'm putting him through that stress, which I
Okay.
don't have.
Okay.
So that is one of the example I'm trying to convey.
Okay.
What will happen to the person who made him do that?
Just a person who made him do that. Your concern is what would happen to the person who made him do that, right?
And also the person who is subjected.
So
The person also might react.
you are wondering about both. One who brings about a certain kind of, let us say, stimulates the other person to work in a particular, to react in a particular way. So what happens to the person who stimulates and the person who gets stimulated? That is the question. One of two options. One is the person, either of them, both of them, or none of them could be stimulated towards spiritual realization, or they could be stimulated towards feelings of material insecurity. There's always two options that one has in life. Either one accepts Krishna or one is not able to accept Krishna. It doesn't really matter who one is. As I said, life is very tricky. So if one has been, let us say, even a great personality is like the Devatas, the residents of heaven, or great yogis, tapasvis, or even very, very, well-situated devotees. Life can trick them if they're not careful. So when life tricks them, there are one of the two results. One is either they have spiritual realization or they get confused in material dualities, in the material conception of life. Either one could happen. It depends on how they, in what way they get stimulated.
In terms of, let's say both have valid reasons. Let's say
Whatever it be, whatever valid reasons, good reasons, wrong reasons, still there can be just two consequences.
This person might be thinking he's coming in front of even the kids. That person might be thinking I need to journey 2 hours after immediately prasadam and staying far away. I'm just adding up more to it. So
I understand all of that. There could be two consequences. Now, if it comes to, if the consequence, if they are stimulated for spiritual realization, then whatever happens after that in the material world will happen. As long as they are existent in the material world, there will be winter, there will be summer, there will be fall, spring, nothing is going to change. They may, get some, they may leave early, or they may have to stay for a longer time. All of that in the material world will still exist. There are various other reasons how that will work. That is Prakriti Kriya Bhana. The material world works in our own ways. All right. However, in terms of what happens when one stimulates another person and the other person gets stimulated, there are only two consequences. The other things, other things that manifest are details in this material world. For example, a person could still feel that it's all right. I have to drive 2 hours away, and if someone is not happy with me standing up there in front, may go behind and add another hour. However, 3 hours of spiritual consciousness could be there with that person, or the person could be with 3 hours of material consciousness. Someone who has stimulated that person could think that, yeah, everyone should get a good opportunity, and therefore there should be, let us say, everyone should be treated equally. Correct? Within that, they may have material consciousness or spiritual consciousness. Now, externally, things are manifest according to how the material world works. Externally, if that is a place where people appreciate everyone having equal opportunities, then there will be people who support and there will be detractors. And externally, for the other person also, there will be people who would feel bad for that person, and there will be people who would feel that, yeah, that was right. The person going back was right. So that is how the material world would work. And there are other factors that control what could happen, what could be the following consequences. Other factors control it. But in terms of stimulation and being stimulated, there could be only two consequences. Okay.
Prabhupada mentioned that the understanding of Krishna will be better if the qualification of understanding Krishna depends upon someone who is subject to dualities or not. He elaborated in the purport. So
Here in our purpose. So would you want to just read through it and exactly quote? Till that time we'll take another question, last question, and then I'll come back to your question. Just read exactly what the statement is and see if we still need explanation on it. All right? Because sometimes the context it gets lost in all the discussion. So let us see what context Prabhupada has made that statement. Yes, Prabhu.
just simple question. We discussed about self-preservation and self-care. Why devotees practicing Krishna consciousness? Is it bad? Is it good? Should there be a limit to it? Just like everybody has to do some self-preservation, some self-care. Where do we go? Mind will always come up because they are programmed in that way.
Okay. So anything is good or bad? You're asking self-preservation, self-care, is it good or bad? Is there maybe a certain amount of self-preservation, self-care that is acceptable and beyond that is unacceptable? That is a question you're asking, which is a simple question. You said, all right. Okay. So let's see if I have a simple answer then. If the answer is according to the theme of your question, it could be a very simple answer. Anyways, all right. So the question, good or bad, is understood on two levels. One is where we are trying to understand good or bad in terms of how to preserve the body. And the other is good or bad in terms of how to preserve or how to purify our consciousness. Now, both can be in sync with the priority being preservation of consciousness. And if the preservation of the body contributes to preservation of consciousness, then there is going to be progress. If preservation of consciousness is not there, or is not happening as much, then the preservation of the body may take priority because the human body is a good vehicle for purification of consciousness. Okay. The other situation where purification of consciousness can be a priority to preservation of body is only for exceptional cases where people take samadhi. Only in that situation. Is that helpful?
So, going forward, we are not in that stage to go into samadhi.
Therefore, I give three options. I'm not saying the third. I said the first one is where the preservation of the body is contributing to purification of consciousness. Very good. Both have to be given priority. Of the two, if the purification of consciousness is lagging behind, then preservation of body is important. It becomes a priority. We cannot let the body suffer. Why? Because the body is a fit vehicle. The human form is a very, very favorable situation for purification of consciousness. So get well first and then practice. The third situation where one can be voluntarily unaware of self-preservation, of preservation of the body, just so that one can purify one's consciousness, is at the level when one is in samadhi. Helpful? Yes. Separately? Okay, we'll stop. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Grace Rohinipriya Prabhuji ki.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.